Okay, so the show has started. Hello. So we just went out of 10 hours of flying. We just woke up. And today we're going to talk a little bit about us and about music and about how we consider music in our lives and how do we produce music. And before everything, we wanted to know who's a musician and who's using Ableton. Yeah, who plays an instrument? I do. Okay, cool. Just to know, so we know who use Ableton. I do. Okay, cool. Oh, so you.
Surprise.
Surprise. And okay, great. And who knows what's a compressor? Compressor. I do. A compressor. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Just a little check. Okay, so we're gonna start by introducing ourselves, and then after we're gonna talk. We're gonna open some Ableton projects, and feel free to ask any question. Feel free to arrive in the conversation and ask questions, and then at the end we're gonna ask questions for if somebody has a question that's related to nothing that we say. So it will be at the end. Cool. Tu commences?
Allez, c'est parti. So, hello everybody, nice to meet you. I'm Cedric, my artist name is CANBLASTER, and I'm gonna play you a few of my songs, extract, you know, so you know my style a little bit. Then we're gonna play, so Jack is gonna introduce himself, and then we're gonna play songs we did together as a collaboration. So you see...
We did songs together.
Yeah, we met before actually. So let's go. So remix I did for a Japanese artist called Broken Haze. All right.
I think we are in mono. If we can go stereo, just saying.
Yeah, there's a lot of details, but you will get the idea. This one is a remix I did for an African artist called Spoke Matambo.
action, a lot of pom pom.
All right. And I'm gonna play a last one involving a lot of like cutting techniques, you know, like samples cutting. I sample a lot in my music.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, let me introduce myself. My name is Jack, and I really like making music any when I can, and so I do a lot of music, and I used to make music using objects, sound of objects, everyday life object like a mate or anything that's around, and I loop it, and it turned into some kind of tech house, between tech and house. And what I'm gonna make you listen to for now is recordings of my live performance. So I do that I do with this setup without the guy taking picture in the middle, and so I did a whole album out of these recordings that I do. So it's just like this. Let's put a random one. We have a compressor. It's way more progressive music, so I will not make you listen the whole 10 minutes of progressing techno. We have some other one. So what I like to do is just improvising with whatever idea comes in my head, and it's every time quite simple, just dim, like 2 notes or 3 notes. But at some point it gets really, something that really I can listen to it for hours and hours. Yeah, and I play guitar. So this is how it sounds when I do a live performance, which has been my main activity those past 3 years. But I like to do music when I'm home too. Sorry, this was part of it. I have to remove my charger. No. And another thing that I like to do is using objects and try to morph them together. So I'm going to make you listen to a track that does only this. It's just, you will hear, it's just about listening to how a sound sounds like and try to make it change and turns into something else. So this is one. It starts with a silence. Yeah, it can go on like this. It may be stupid, but I really like just to make something morphing and morphing and morphing and morphing. And even just doing this takes me like 10 days. But then after I'm like, wow, and that's okay. And I don't even release those things for now. It will come. I'm still trying to find a way to put it in some music that like a maximum people could, you know, get it. I mean, incorporate it in a song, because I know that this music is not like, I think if my mother could not listen to it, then it's the goal is you know it's not okay, and I'm sure she will just say like, well, what is this? Where's the chorus of it? So I'm still working on that. I think it might be a topic of this masterclass also. So yeah. So yeah. Tu veux continuer? Oui.
All right. So Jacques is working a lot with like some sampling real sounds and recordings. The sounds I played you earlier, so there were basically two different things. One of them was working with other artists that come from different origins and like getting inspiration from this sound and creating something with it. And the other one was playing with samples and cutting them, you know. So what I'm gonna do right now is play a song, a remix I did that combines both techniques. So this artist who is called Valentino Mora. He used to be called French Fries, and this is a song where it comes from a ethnic guitar and turns into some kind of electronic flute, and then there are samples that are cut on the rhythm of the original guitar. And after that, I will play you a track, a remix I did of Jacques, which was kind of our first collaborative work, and I will talk about it. But first, all right. So you hear this like ta 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 ta, but with all of different samples. And now he's gonna tell you about the tracks, the track I remixed from him.
Yeah, so the first time we worked together was on a track of mine, which actually to tell a bit about my story. So I've been doing those weird, quirky sound with objects, and at some point I received. It was cool because I was just doing this like for myself and everything, and at some point people get interested into this and saying, "Wow, what is this guy doing this weird techno tracks?" And there is one place in Paris, in France, where there is all the national radios together in one big building, and the guy who runs the communication of the building uh, asked me to do a music with the sound of the building. And it's something now a lot of people ask me, like, can you do the sound of a music with the sound of this or the sound of this? It was the first time that I did it. Now I'm bored of doing this. I just want to do something else. But I mean, it's my job in a way now. So I've been doing this, and so the guy gave me samples of just like him tapping, knocking on doors, using like extinctors, like for the fire, does some really cool ding ding dings, stuff like that. And he asked me to do music, so I did this track called "In the Radio," dans la radio in France. It was dans la radio, which is my first moment, or when I succeed in doing what I was talking about before, which is using my concept of using objects to put it in some music that could be listened by my parents. So with lyrics and everything. So I did a Spanish version. I'm gonna play the Spanish version. Sorry for my Spanish is not so good, but so as we are here, I'm gonna play the Spanish version. Actually, I did a Russian version now, a Chinese version. I did even the Esperanto version. I went through the push the idea of doing some international hit. I mean, as for me, like doing a song is something that is not really looks like me, like doing a song with a chorus and a verse. And so I was like, okay, if I do it, let's do it for real. And then I did the whole you know, like pop star does, like Shakira doing the Spanish and the English versions and stuff like that. So I really went like till doing the Arabic version and everything. So now is the Spanish version.
Es la primera vez que escucho mi voz desde fuera de mí, en la radio. No me reconozco, no sé si me gusta, pero mira todas las cosas que se puede hacer en la radio.
So we still have this idea of morphing in the woo. My voice turns into a synth. So these are the sounds of the building.
Hablo con gente muy inteligente. No tengo opinión porque pienso que depende.
Anyway, we won't listen to the whole thing. And so now we're gonna listen to a remix that Cedric made when we met.
So when we met, we decided that I will do this remix because I really liked the song, you know, and because the song was about the radio, and Jacques has a technique in his live set that is probably not going to do today, but he samples live the radio, then loops it and integrates it into his live setup. You still do that, right?
Yeah, you have the radio charging there.
All right. Okay. All right. So I told him, okay, I can do this remix, but let's go together and sample the radio, and I will cut with my techniques the radio samples to make a remix of your song. And this is, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but...
Vas-y, on... Okay.
Okay.
So just for you to see the difference between the one original track and one remix, and Cedric is a really good remixer, and he used to really like break the track. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna talk about what we do by these days. So what? So in this same approach, what we did now, as Cedric did a lot of remix and is really fast and good at Ableton, and I am, even if I am doing a lot of Ableton too, I was more into doing the live set I'm going to show you, and so Cedric took recordings of my live performance, like 2 moments that he enjoyed, and he decided to do. We can't even talk about a remix, because what would it be like if we talk about remix when there is a track that has been released and then a guy take the stems out of it and remix it? But now it's just I've been playing an improvised track, so I was playing live some track that hasn't been released before, and so it's basically just I was in the middle of the process and we just end the process together. So this is something that I like to do, and I'm gonna show you. So here it is. So this was a moment that I recorded 2 years ago in a concert where there was a lot of troubles on my on my system, like always. But it finally turned out to be a good concert. And I couldn't record the multi-track, so I had only this master of the concert that we're gonna listen an excerpt of it. Bull. Oh, fuck, it's on my. Sorry, guys. Just have to find the right one. C'est ça? Sorry guys, sorry. Gotta find the right moment. The concert is like 1 hour 30. Ah, c'est ça. C'est après que ça s'arrête. So, as it's I'm in the middle of the research when I am playing a live show, so there is like always like trying to find a new idea. And at some point, sometimes there is highlights. So there was this moment I was a bit lost, and I just recorded a vocal that wasn't really beautiful. And it was like this. So the sound is really quirky. And finally, by emptying the sound, by removing some percussions I recorded to remove the bass and everything, I arrived at this point. So you can hear it. It almost already sounds like Cedric's remix. So now you can hear me trying to change the bass line. So this little moment. This little moment, we really enjoyed it, and we were like, yeah, maybe we should do a track that does a dum 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 dum. So this little thing, we couldn't use it, we couldn't sample it because it was mastered. So there's like, which is a balloon. I tried to make a snare out of balloon, but it was 2 years ago, so I wasn't like so good at EQing the stuff and doing it like I do today. And so we did. This track was called Alela. It means like, let's go now. And this is what my sound engineer tells me in my ears during the show when there is some cool moment. He says like, Alela. So I'm like, yeah, man, because I can't talk with my sound engineer without the audience to know that. So it's like a code. And sometimes he says, Alela, but it's not so good. And he's just trying to make me feel like it's good, but it's not. And but this moment was good. So we did. We are currently working on this track, and we decided to open this project for you to know a bit like how we work. And then after, so we're going to talk about Ableton, and I think after we're going to talk more about like stuff about career and everything, because I know most of the time we like to speak about that too. So now let's go in. Yeah.
Let's just play it for now, right?
Yeah, let's just play it. It's work in progress.
So this is that like a version I will play when I DJ, for example.
So Cedric keep this style of snare like it's got almost like a hit of like a boxing cartoon, you know, kind of. This sounded like the original snare I did in the show. Yeah. So you can hear that Cedric added some chords that I didn't have during my live performance. And also the steel drum is a rerun that we recorded by a friend of us. Anyway, so it's still a work in progress. I'm not sure. I'm sure we are not good for the structure already, but it's a good thing for us to make this little deconstruction of what's happening. So
And show you something we're working on right now, you know, that's still
yeah, being in the
progress.
fresh stuff. So we're gonna start by the beginning. So what's happening?
So actually, you can see that the project doesn't start at the beginning, you know, there are some stuff before and after, there's all kind of like tests that are being done all around the project, and then there is this part where it can be the middle, it can be in the end, it doesn't matter, or at the beginning, but there's one part where the actual song is going to take place, you know, with the best parts of every stuff we did so far. So how does the song start, right? There's just a kick with no low frequency, you know,
Just to keep the rhythm.
and that's a technique that Jacques used a lot. So I wanted the song to start this way as well. And so there, what is there? There's the who filtered as well.
There's a who, which is you, no? Yeah, it's
We just started working together, and it was I think the very first session, you know, at the studio in Paris.
yeah.
And we were just facing each other and working on 2 different projects. And I recorded straight to my microphone here, like, you know. And sometimes it's enough, you know. You don't need a microphone or you don't need a big gear or whatever. You can just like. The idea is it has to be as fast as possible and come through your computer. So if you have a studio, everything is plugged, it's cool. If you don't have a studio, but you have something that, you know, it's important. The speed is important, I think, that you have the idea between the idea and the computer. It has to be fast, and sometimes maybe you're gonna spend some time working on your tools. So when you are in a creative process, the tools are available, and it's gonna be fast for you to put some ideas down, you know. And then we have this layer, right? Ouais. Alors, so at the beginning of the song, there's a filter, and then when the song really starts, you know, the kick, there will be no filter, and same with the kick.
What a kick.
So you can feel the song at the beginning while it's mixing with the previous song, but when it starts, you can feel it coming, although you already heard it a little bit before, you know. And there's one last layer that was added, and it was this one. So the story is that, well, I'm letting it play for a little so you can hear it properly, you know. So there this. Ouais. And so where do these samples come from, right? When Jacques recorded this song, it was like 2 years ago, you said? So he didn't have the gear he has right now. Now, you want to explain about the...
Yeah, now I have everything that I... But peut-être que maybe I can explain le gear maintenant.
You want to go on, like, do you guys want to see more about the Ableton or the gear, or...
I think what we could do, as this track has been made with this setup, I take like 20 minutes to explain the setup, so now we can go back in the
let's
track.
do that, right?
So it will be in the right order, it will follow how is it's been done. Actually, so these little percussive sounds are actually other recordings of more recent shows that I gave to Cedric, so we can have this like touch that I have, which I call a touch, but actually it's just more like doing music with...
Well, you're touching the object. So.
Yeah, I'm touching the object. So I was happy that he used this, so it's more like, it looks like what I do, more than, you know, using a sound of a library, which everybody does too, but which I decided not to do because I wanted to do something that doesn't sounds like something we already know. So so I'm gonna show you with my one hand, because I have to hold the mic so I can keep on speaking to you. So it's gonna be a challenge. Can we have sound on my set, please? So this is a contact mic. Actually, it's a contact mic with some tape on it, because if there is no tape on it, sometimes it's too crispy. The sound is too crispy. I mean, on this model that I have, it's something that we used to put on acoustic guitar, so we can record the acoustic guitar, or we can do a live show with acoustic guitar. So now I'm going to show you how fun it is. Seems like we have a delay. So when I discovered that, I was really happy. And since then, I just use that every day. And what I like to do is just like putting a rhythm, a beat, and just like manipulating stuff. And then I just record it, and it makes like. So this is the final stuff that I just did. If I use this, for example. And it thinks like it feels like a human brain makes turns into music or whatever you can hear, like in a loop. So even if sometimes it's not right on the tempo, it's okay. At some point, people get used to it, and as I just like go on. Most of the time, I start by recording a hi-hat with this. But this thing doesn't really. This thing actually doesn't really sound like a hi-hat. So what I finally did on my last trip to Japan, I bought this Japanese thing, which is really crazy. It's a EQ that can be controlled with MIDI. So actually here I have a pedal. Kind of a pedal board, a MIDI controller on the ground, and I can, with my feet, I can decide on which frequency I will send the sound. So, for example, not the same. So if I want to make a hi-hat, I will rather use this one. Which is better than the previous sound, you know? You know? So this is the same for every object, so I will not take too long to talk about this, but so this is for the funny part, the object part. So I have a lot of objects, and I have my favorite ones, and I have stuff that I use at every concert, and then I have what people brings me. And after there is this golden keyboard, which I like. And thing, oh, wow, it's crazy, right? So with this system, I can just play keyboard. And I have some pre-recorded, not pre-recorded, but I set up some MIDI instruments before the show, and I can just change the timbre of the sound. So if we go like this. So if I play this, for example, I can record it here. 2, 3, 2. And then it goes on and on and on. So this is without a sound check, and actually with 5% of battery on my computer. Which explain the. So yeah, I think you understood the concept. And then after here, there is a lot of effects. I can just like process effects in which, yeah. First question. Woo! Yeah, effects are from Ableton. So for those who know a bit about it, these loopers I use, I don't know why, I just like them, and I didn't know I could do the same in Ableton when I started. Now it's my habit. These loopers, I record on this with some foot switches. And I record, and then I can change the volume and the pan, which is cool. And the loopers actually goes through Ableton, and that's how I can process effects. And then it's mixed into the Ableton, into the sound card, and it goes in this patch, that goes in the sound engineer, that goes in the speakers, that goes inside of your ears, that touch your heart, hopefully. And so that's it. So after that, controllers are just like volumes of stuff, but everything is Ableton, which is the best because actually there is every effects you could find is in Ableton, and it's really light, in CPU. So it's okay. So for example, here are every effects I can process on my loopers here, so on the sound of the object. Here are all those effects I can process at the beginning of the circuit, of the line, on my voice or on this, or on the guitar, just before the loopers. And here is every effects I can process on the bass, on the synths, that I play with the golden keyboard. And here are all the mastering effects. Not mastering, on the master. Like DJ effects. I know I don't have any battery enough. So beat repeats, filters, big reverbs. That makes people feel like it's a DJ set. And then after, just to let you know and to make the link with what we're going to talk about, this beautiful sound card that is velcroed on the back of my setup, allows me to have this MIDI output. So there is the usual audio output that are here, and that makes us, we can hear. And not now, but when I play live, I have also the optical MIDI output, which allow 64 channel in one little cable that I have here. And I have another computer, and I have, with this other computer, I have a only optical sound card, which is really little converter between optic. This is the wire. So this can transport 64 audio tracks, which I didn't know before I know. And so on this other computer, I record a multi-track. So I have 24, between 6, depending on the shows, between 16 and 24 tracks. So I have all the 3 loopers. It makes 6 tracks, 3 stereo to split it, and I have each of these tracks, and that allow us to work on the stuff after the show, which is cool. So I can at every show have at least, I hope at each of my show there could be like one cool moment that I can work after the show and get a track out of it. So this is what we did, but Cedric chose a recording that I didn't have the multi-track, so that's why we replayed everything after.
Before coming back to the project, I just wanted to make sure like everyone understood. On your Ableton, you don't use any plugins, I think, right? Like the synths are from live, the effects are from live, everything, right?
Almost everything.
Okay.
But most of the things, because it's the
it,
lightest, right? And as I am using live looping, I'm doing live looping, I cannot have latency. It's just not possible. It will like kill the groove. And so I don't open even some Max for Live devices that I cannot use, like the auto-tune or stuff like that, because it makes me like double the latency. So yeah, there's not so many plugins, just a transient master by Native Instrument. But,
yeah, so that's just one thing I wanted to tell. Maybe there are some of you that are lost in this place where like they try all the plugins and they try to find the right sound and they go over and over and they get lost in it. And sometimes you think that, you know, you have to try to find the best sound and there is a secret and there is the best plugin. Well, you don't, you know, like just what feels comfortable. If it's live, if it's the most basic stuff, if it's, I don't know, GarageBand, a Logic, whatever, like if there's a sound you like straight, you use it and that's it. So there are several recordings that were from several different lives, actually. I just took a few projects from Jacques and make them match so it gets the same feel you heard while he was playing live, you know? So, of course, it's more a beat, it's more for the clubs, but you still get the same, that vibe that it's not a usual sample, you know?
808. So what about the bass?
Yes.
Can we talk about that bass?
All right.
Please.
So as you can see, when the tune progresses, there's going to be like 3 different basses together, you know? So it's all about the layering. So I'm going to play them separately. One for the attack, right? One with the like resonance, cutoff evolving a lot. Maybe we got a little automation right here. Yeah. So you know.
Some kind of
To give that kind of human feel, you know, like you are tweaking it with a knob or like there is a modulation on the voice, as you just said, you know. And last one, which is kind of the original one you use, right?
Yeah, yeah. He just gave my trick. So this is the bass line I use all the time, and it's just the preset of an operator mallet bass of Ableton. I did my first EP just with this bass.
And there's one more here.
So
what
just
is that?
before we can hear the bass, the melody of the bass arrive like a rhythmic, like ta 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 ta. So this is just because there's an automation on decay.
Can we see that? Yeah, it's there. It's frozen, but it's there if you look.
It's frozen. Yeah, so the duration of the decay is increasing. And at some point we can distinguish the melody.
Yeah. Understand the melody, I guess. Here. You know, like it was just the beginning of the sound and it turns into the whole sound.
And at the same moment there's a rim.
Oh, that's true. Where is it?
There's a rim shot.
Dessus, la tête dessus. In the percussions, right? Ah merde.
Maybe you removed it. Ta ta ta.
No, I didn't. It was there.
Ta 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 ta. Just layers of layers. I mean, every time we just like listening to what we have and how can this be more like I imagine, and we just layer and layer. I think there's a lot of people just trying to tweak their sound so it can be like they imagine, but finally the synths or the hardware they are using cannot really imitate what they have in mind. And for this, we just layer and layer and layer. Actually, some devices just layer without showing the fact that they layer stuff, you know, like the collision stuff in Ableton, just layers of stuff. And you might mind sometimes just when you know there is layers, then you're like, you can hear the different sounds, but people will not know, they will just hear one sound. So if you have like a rim shot doing the same rhythm of 3 different basses, for everybody will be just dun, 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 dun. And for you then after you can tweak between the volumes and it makes some automation that makes the sound live after all.
And one last trick, which is I think the key of understanding how to layer properly, is you have to understand why you do each layer, you know, what it actually does. So if you do a layer for the attack, for example, you're going to remove the attack for the other layer. If you do a layer with the sub, you're going to remove the high frequencies of the sub. If you do a layer with the medium and high frequency, you're going to remove the sub. So each layer has to breathe, you know, because if you don't let the space for each layer, they're just going to, like, you know, collide, and the frequency and it's going to, like, be bad, you know.
And you can also add layers to pan different layers and have a more spectral sound.
Think about the space when you layer. The space in the frequencies and the space left and right. Next you got the riser, right? So the build up. Oh yeah, those scenes before.
So again, there's an automation for the sound of these synths arise. Layers of
yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening in the build up, of course. It's all tons of different sounds, just, you know, opening. If you understood what we did on the bass, you get the basic idea, you know. One that's just going faster and faster, so it gets, you know, a delay that's, you can see it there. It's an arpeggiator. Footman style.
So basically, the idea of this build-up, if I can speak for both of us, all these automations and all these samples that just do like a is actually let's listen to everything. Yeah.
No.
So all these things are just here to make to produce a feeling of whoa. So everything is up and up, going up, and at the same time everything is getting more like blurry, you know. That's why there is these ones like
Yeah.
so people are like, wow, we are losing the point of the song, and which is cool. I think it's cool when just before you give the point of the song, which is like dun, 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 dun. For us it was this loop we listened to before. Just before giving this, we just remove everything and just put some like you're gonna lose it. Like people are like, oh fuck, I thought it was this, but it's going somewhere else. And then it's coming back, and you're like, wah. So this is a feeling that all these samples are for.
Yeah, these are just like random risers from a lot of different sources. They are actually kind of low in the mix, but you can feel them, you know.
So this is an interesting thing to talk
maybe
about.
I'm gonna play before we apply the gate, right?
So it's just like random futuristic sounds.
So do you get it from some packs? You can get it from anywhere. You know, it doesn't really matter.
And
but what matters is the process.
It seems
that
like one wasn't long enough.
Yeah.
So you had to just duplicate. Yeah, it's just
really
like
doesn't matter.
Looping it.
So we process it, and it sounds like this.
Ta-da! So you know about the gate? Do you guys know about gate? Yeah. Sidechain. Do you guys know about sidechain? So sidechain, most people know sidechain for sidechaining a kick on the compressor on other like pads or anything. So that makes this famous effects. And but we use it in different ways. We sidechain gates. So there is this rim shot that we listen to. I think the rim shot was a sidechain actually. Yeah. So the rim shot actually we talked about it previously, but it's muted, and it just gives the ta 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 ta, and it triggers the gate, which is applied on the group that that gathers every tracks of those futuristic sounds. So can you talk about gate?
Yeah, sure. Basically, it's the opposite. You know, the sidechain. So you know it works like right. You get a sound, woo, and every time the kicks hit, you know, it's gonna stop the sound, and then it starts progressively like woo woo woo, and the gate is gonna do the opposite. So it's gonna once it hits, it's gonna start the sound, and the rest of the time it stopped. So it's gonna be like it depends on the, you know.
I like your imitation of the gate.
Yeah, I worked on it for a lot of time. So where is it? So you can just, or very
so
short.
by moving the release time, we can get the sound back. If the release is too long, then we can just listen to the sound like it is before the gate.
So that's a good trick to put on anything, and that's a thing we're gonna put on the voices later, and you're gonna hear like how it sounds. You
and
know?
It's something that I do all the time, because it just makes, you know, as I said, I know the trick, and I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't use it too much, but for everybody that doesn't know about Ableton and how the music is made, it's just a rhythm. So before I used to use it once in my live show, and now my pads are always triggered by what I do. And in the input of the gate of the sidechain, I put my objects, my loops of objects. So if I have some, and then I record some chords, the chords will do, and by changing the release time, I really can get like some really precise ninja sound. And so yeah, I really enjoy that.
All right. Then the riff, right? Let's talk for 2 seconds about how it was recorded, right? Because you were at the festival with that guy, and I think it was just with your phone once again, right?
No, it was with...
Oh, we recorded. I have one layer that is the phone, and the other one that's our friends, actually.
So yeah, so this thing, it's a friend of mine called Clément Bazin, which is a really good musician, French musician. I invite you to listen to what he does. His name is Clément Bazin, and he's using steel drum. And we were just like meeting in a festival. He was playing at the same festival, and at this time we were working on that. So I just said to him, "Okay, let's go in." There was some Adjeco backstage, and we just took 20 minutes to record this. Just the time for him to get what it is, and I think it sounds quite good. And
yeah, and we re-recorded this after as well, you know. There are several layers. I think there are even the same samples but processed differently, maybe just a reverb.
But the steel drums already sounds like a reverb because there is,
true.
You know, like a plate reverb. So I wish we could maybe gate it by and makes it more sharp, because I like when it hits.
And you can see that there are also layers that are probably some of the ones you played live, like edited a little bit, you know. No, this one is new, but it's same is for the attack.
I didn't know this one.
Surprise. And this is the same one we heard in your recording earlier, right?
It's the mallet, Ableton mallet free pack that you can download.
Okay, then going.
Then the pads.
There are some claps, some layers, but nothing to say about it, you know. But still
there is
saying. And then the drop, so that's just the bass and the kick.
I think that I just heard a.
Oh no, the famous the famous sample. We use this one all the time instead of a crash. Dans les FX, c'est le fameux Félix.
So as you can see, there is a lot of tracks, but yeah, this one. It's just a gunshot in the desert.
And it gives the energy, like we all heard the crash on the drop or the white noise, you know, so we're trying to find something else.
We don't really want to use we share this idea of not using too many library stuff that everybody use, and it might be sometimes useless. Sometimes we just use something just not to use the other one, and but finally with layers, and we finally succeed in like doing what we want to do.
Yeah, it's all about getting your sound more personal, sorry, and about like finding your own process. Like it doesn't matter where the sound come from. Some of the sound might be even from, I don't know, other song that you tweak so much that you don't even know they come from there, you know.
And I also wanted to say something about this, like most recorders, like smartphone recordings or little recorders like I have here, is totally fine to do whatever professional music, like professional. We're gonna talk about it later, but yeah, you have a question. Sorry. Yeah, like like all the time I have this in my pocket. Most of people have has a smartphone. It could be the same, and you just like I'm just like going to toilets, and then there is this little sound, and I'm like, oh, cool. And so I just record it, like nobody's looking at me, and then I have it. And sometimes when I get bored, I just like put it on my computer, and then I have some. I can make you listen some stuff. I do. I just like listen to it with a rhythm, and I think a lot of people does that. I don't know. You just like put a rhythm on it. Take like a can be a kick or a metronome, and then finally you start by having some kind of random grooves out of it, and I think it can be a good starting point sometimes. For example, if you listen to this, do I have sound here? So this is totally random. But if I put a metronome on it, it can turn into something, you know, stuff like that, or this one. I have like a lot of like this. Last one. So it might be a good, sometimes a good way to start with just a sound you like and just, you know, like vibing on it. And I'd rather start a song having this, even if it's an empty sample, just like there is a guy speaking somewhere and there is just a sound of a door. This is more inspiring than just having like only the metronome, you know. And like I have this, I'm like, oh, I have no idea. But if I have this, and then everything goes around it, and so yeah. So this was just a little break out of it.
Okay. For me, the sampling process was very different. When I started doing music, it was for some kind of video games. And what happened is you would program something and you would sending to another person, and there will be a music sheet that was, playing. And every time one note hits the bottom of the screen, the player will have to play one note and it will play the note you wrote, you know. So
This is the Dance Revolution kind of game, you know, where people just
yeah,
dancing on the.
yeah. I was doing music for rhythm games. This one, precise one, is called Beatmania, the original one, and so it's like a simulation of a DJ game. So the thing is, it's a different experience from club music because you're gonna create the music and send it to the people, and he's gonna play the music you wrote, you know, himself. And what I had to do is really note by note. There was a program, and I had to click every note from the music. It was very archaic, and I had to use another program to choose the pitch of each note, you know. And so I will take other songs from this video game, or I would take just little notes that were isolated in some songs that I like or some MP3s, or I would have a cheap microphone and record something to make it sound a bit like I want. So there was all kind of different process, and back then it was really long. Now you can just, like, you know, you take any sound that you want, you put it in a sampler, all the notes are already there, so it's a lot faster. But as long as you tweak it enough, you know, and this is an idea, I think, if you want to intellectualize that, that was introduced by Musique Concrète. Any sound you put, it doesn't matter, you know, it's the how you're gonna tweak it and the process. The sound is maybe 5% of the result only, and the rest is gonna be just what you do with it. And if we have time to show some stuff, we're gonna show how we can process some stuff with you know, some sound to do some stuff. And anyway,
with some stuff. So just to summarize, when you listen to a sound that you like in everyday life, just take time to record it. Just don't wait. Ah, no, I don't have the right microphone or stuff. Just record it, and then when you will be in doing sound on your headphones, or if you have the chance to have a studio, then it will give you options that you won't have if you don't record it.
so next. Ouais. So just some little drums layering. So we already showed you that at the beginning. We're not
So
gonna
yeah,
go
there's a
over
lot
it,
of
you know.
drum layers. It's the same concept.
But what I want to show you is the vocal processing, actually.
I'm sure you didn't.
It's here.
I'm sure most of you didn't recognize that there were vocals in the track, actually.
Yeah, that's here.
Because it's more processed like synths.
So that's what we're talking about. All right.
So this is my voice, and I used to do this during my live shows. I would do like record this on the looper,
So we have
and
it
then
here.
I would take the
That's the original takes.
original take,
So one layer, you know.
and then I take the volume fader and I just like and record it after, record it again, you know. And so it makes this little smooth. You don't even recognize the voice. That's what I like, because I don't feel really comfortable with my voice already, and it's a good way for me to like spread my idea. I have this idea, but I don't know how to play it. I don't have time because I'm on the live set, and so I just grab a mic and toot, 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 and so it makes it fast. So we did it again on that track. But
Yes,
we
so
did layers, and we did
there's a lot of
and
them.
instead of doing the fader automation, we actually used the gate. The same thing with gate, with different settings.
And so on the breaks, and that's probably the last thing we're going to show you from this project, because we want to talk about other things. What we did is we combined the technique we showed you at the beginning with the gate opening and this voice harmonies. And what we did is from the main riff, we agreed on a new chord progression that we played on the synth. And when we decided that that's the one we really wanted, we recorded it with Jack voice track by track. So that's what you see here. That's why there's a lot of them. And after that, we gated it so it opens and you get the build up more and more, you know. So I'm gonna solo it and maybe just play you with some little synth layer that we added, so you get the better feeling.
So there's a volume automation, that's why it arises. should do an ambient version of the track with only this.
So it really opens up during the break and it closes again and then it drops. Like, you know, this is the final part before the... So you really have this feeling of, you know, opening and then... Right, you get it.
So for this, we used the difference here on the gate. There is still this release automation that we may see somewhere, yeah, here. So we definitely can see the opening and the closing of it. And on the voice, as we wanted to imitate the move of a fader, we have also the attack time that is set. Yeah, the attack time here is set on 21 millisecond. That would be the time that I do like tuk tuk tuk. We didn't want it to be like tack tack tack, just like like somebody moving a fader. And we use also this erosion to make the voice sound more like a synth. I don't know if you know this effect. So it basically makes it sound like a kind of a, I couldn't describe it. It's like I don't really know what. Some kind of robot stuff. I think that's it for this session. Most of the things, yeah, most of the interesting things. What do we have in send? We don't have so many send and.
Not in this one, just...
Yeah.
I don't even use those, so...
So I wanted to know if anybody had a question. Yeah. Ah, good question.
The source has to be... I recommend, for example, using a white noise, very short, you know, because it covers all the frequencies. And so that's probably the best one. But most of the time when I want to be quick, I use, for example, a snare or a rim shot, but something with a really strong attack, you know.
But about the clip, I think it's not the same. I think it's not the same because there's a ta 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 ta. It's not the same rhythm exactly. So I think we have two different ones.
Oh, okay.
Because it's like ta ta. I'm not sure. I don't know. It may sometimes yes, sometimes not. But you can tweak as you want. And I have a friend of mine, Polo from the band Polo and Pan. I don't know if you know. It's a French band. When he opens like a normal project, blank new session. Sorry. He already has like sidechain tracks. One on the snare, one on the hi-hat, one on the kick. So he can always, when he's using a gate or he's using a compressor, he can sidechain on the tracks that he already set that are muted that we don't hear. So and sometimes he changes it so it's right on the time. Yeah, that's it for it. Any other question? Do we have a mic for questions?
We'll just share ours. Does it work?
Question time.
Aló, aló.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome in the sound.
Hola. What is chocolate? Chocolate.
Chocolate. Yeah. I like chocolate too. Yeah. So this is so you're talking about this, and it's great that you talk about this because it's almost falling. I can put it back. This is just, I think, one of the most complete power supply, which is not so much interesting. but it it supply power.
And it has a
For-
cool name.
Yeah, and it has a really cool name. And it's the 20th anniversary edition. So
Oh.
I didn't hesitate. I was on Thomann and I was like, wow, I need this. So it's just because I used to have a lot of guitar pedals, and I decided not to travel with my guitar pedals anymore. I had like 20, and finally I still use this one, but it's ridiculous because I just use 2, and there is like 16 supply. But this allows me to turn between 230 and 110 volts. Yeah. So this is really important because when you tour around the world, sometimes you arrive in a concert and you're like, fuck, I cannot play if I don't have this little thing. You know, you have everything, and sometimes just this is missing, so you cannot play. You know, so now I trust this thing.
Thanks.
Yeah, we had another question there.
Hola. Hello.
Hola.
Hi. When it comes to layers, would you say the more the better?
No,
No?
I don't think we would say the more the better in any situation, or I don't know.
Some situations where I've seen a lot of layers, for example, in some mainstream projects, you know.
Dubstep.
More like rap or something like that. And but what they do is the choice is really important. So you're gonna try a lot of things, and some of them are gonna be just how to say that. Some of them are gonna be your main ones. You know, the ones with the power and the one with precise goals. You know, and the other ones you just like them. You feel they add something, and they're gonna be your little sauce. You know. So they're going to be really low in the mix. Sometimes I saw some tracks that were like below 30, you know, 20, 30, things like that. Like sometimes you cannot you cannot hear it, but you can just feel it. For example, I know, you know this band Portishead, right? I know the producer used to hide some frequencies, some really low layers in the mix. And so you don't hear them, but you feel them. And when you actually try to tweak the frequencies, you know, there are some sound that can appear if you try something with the software. So some people do that, you know.
And the more I think the more you will do sound, and the more you will feel free to just select the right frequency range that you want from a sound. Like at the beginning, when I was doing sound, I was just dropping samples and using as they were, and then I was doing EQs, like just little EQs. And now sometimes I'm really like, just I know I want this sample, and I want only the extreme treble of this sample. And so if you finally, it's more, I don't feel like it's the number of layers. It's more like if there is like some layer, and you just like taking some quantity of layers, like some this, and at the end it has to sound like one thing. You know? Yeah.
But really, you select with your you know your with your
Eyes closed.
feelings and with your mind, with your no, basically not with your mind, with your experience and with your intuition, you know. And it's a balance between both, and it's gonna come as you do it more and more.
And also, for example, if at some point you are happy with, I don't know, for example, a snare, you use like 3 or 4 snares together, one for the attack, one for the trebles, and you had a good snare with that, you can just bounce it and use it in your other tracks, and then it will be just, for somebody else, it won't be 3 snares, it will be just 1 snare. So just to say, like, you know, it's not, it's just psychological, the numbers of layers and everything. Okay, next question, somewhere out there. We have a mic because, you know, we are on a TV show, so we have to use mics.
Okay, hi.
Hello. Hi.
Do you always use like the horizontal mode in Ableton?
I didn't understand.
Est-ce que tu utilises toujours le mode horizontal?
Ah, horizontal mode. So, Cedric is using horizontal mode all the time, most of the time.
Most of the time.
Most-
When I'm only using a vertical mode personally when I want to try different combinations really quick. And it's when I use more MIDI than audio.
And I use for my live performance, I use yeah, the vertical, and but I use both. But I don't really use I don't switch from one to the other. I only use vertical for my live shows. Then it get recorded, as I told you, on another computer, which is in vertical, and then I work on the horizontal. Sorry, on the horizontal. But I don't, you know, switch and do the structure like this. I don't know. Some people do.
Sometimes I start with the vertical just and play with them and record to get the rough idea and then get more precise and switch to horizontal mode. But I never came back like the other way, you know.
Any other question? Oh, 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 oh. If you have any other questions that not Ableton related or more about
Music,
music,
or
anything.
point of view in general. You know?
Yo,
I have a question. How can you evit, ¿cómo se dice?
avoid
The saturation in your session?
saturation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So this is a question for me, I think, because
Yeah,
Cedric is not so good at that.
when you record the objects and
Not to be in the red, you mean? Like not to, yeah. So when you start Ableton at the beginning and maybe sometimes during years for some people, you hit the red in the master, which means that your tracks are too loud. And actually, I'm not the best person to talk about all this, but what I always do is I consider the 0 as the maximum sound. So when I start a track in the horizontal mode, I will always like go 12 dB down. It will be my base, you know. I always like, and then I put a limiter on the master, which is normal. You can find a lot of good tutorials on YouTube about putting what to put on the master so it doesn't. But some people put a utility on the master, and then they put the gain up, so you hear loud on your computer, and then you put a limiter on it, and so then when you remove it, everything is down. It's just that it's true that the sound of the computer, when you're doing some sound and you want to be loud, it makes you get all your tracks too loud. And but I know Cedric likes when it's red. It's just cool to have some red.
Now actually I do the utility thing, but for a long time I've just been like, you know, not caring about the mixing stuff so much and just caring about the feeling. You know, you have to feel it when you do the song, and
Yeah.
and so that would be a separated process. I do the track, and when I feel like it's kind of done, I switch to mix mode, and I focus on really where I want to place the sounds. But most of it is already there, you know. And so what I do is I would just solo each track and then add any, you know, starting with the kick and then the bass and then whatever, and do a regular mix like that. But I don't know if it's I don't know if it can help you as well. But where I've been also in a different situation. For example, when you're working with a more mainstream artist, or when you have to show music to I don't know, management or people or your team, you know, or producers you work with, just people who, for example, don't know the technical stuff about music, you know. And you're not gonna come and say, yes, it's not mixed, or it needs mastering, or blah blah blah, you know. If they don't get the feeling straight away, they're not gonna buy the song. They're not gonna go for it. And so I hint as a confidence boost to, you know, to use a little compressor to
Yes,
you
the
know,
confidence boost.
the confidence boost compressor, you know. So when you press play, you know the sound is going to be as loud as what they used to hear.
And it feels like more like on the radio. Even if it's not a good mastering, I agree with Cedric saying that when you show something, it's so hard just to show something to even friends or people you know, like bounce it and say, I did this. It's a step, you know, it's a big step and it's hard, and even like it's been years I do this and it's still hard. And it's, for me, I like when it sounds like more radio, even if I just put the sound and just like put a big limiter with a lot of gain and then compressor, and I don't even really know what I'm doing. I'm like just hearing it. Sometimes at some part of the song it's not good, but I know that it's gonna, when I'm gonna play it, it's gonna be like, and yeah, that's why I agree with the confidence boost term. And this is really important. I mean, we don't need to be so good. If you don't want to be a sound engineer, it's okay. You know, nobody needs to be a sound engineer if they don't want. You know, it's a job. It's a real job, and it's more sometimes about cleaning vocals and managing some stuff and make everything looks like what other people does. You know, so, and this is not the most artistic part. And if you don't want to do that, it's okay. But I would say that it's really important to be as good, like to master everything. I mean, comment maîtriser, yeah. Parce que master, du coup, is not the right word. To master everything that you...
To be in control of everything.
Yeah, to control everything that leads you to be able to arrive at the point where you have sounds on you, just on your smartphone, and just even with this saying, hey, I did this, what do you think about it? This is the point. I think this is the point of just like sharing to other people, because I think it's fun to do sound and staying home, but at some point I felt that I wanted to share it with my friends, and even if it's not really important to think about that when you do your sound, because I truly believe that the most important thing is just to have fun on the moment, and people will feel that you just had fun and it's cool. It's really important to accept that we are, you know, in a social world, and we want our music to be liked and to be listened by other people, and that's okay. And I know there's a lot of people that are like, no, I don't give a shit, I just want to do my stuff. But I don't feel like it's so true, because you know, we all like when we did something and somebody else say it's cool. And so even if you don't like looking for that feeling, it's cool to reach that point when you can like just press play and it's cool and it's fine. So yeah, I think this is the point I reached. I'm not like super master of Ableton, but I know that I can do this and I feel fine with that, you know. It's like a guitarist, he can play like a few chords and just like be around the fire, and this is the point, you know. This is a cool point.
That answered your question?
Yeah.
Okay,
Any other
perfect.
question? Wow, how much time do we still have? Because my computer is showing, is displaying noon 21.
Still LA time.
Yeah. No other, okay. So I think we can maybe listen to some other stuff we made, or
I'd like to talk about the other track, you know, not this one, but the other one, the Sunrise. Là.
ah ouais.
You get the last version, I think. So this one, it is kind of Jacques who came to me like, I have this great melody, and I already knew his live, the one he played me. I already listened to it by myself, so I agreed, and we were like, okay, let's do it. But there's another song, we did the two together. That's been the opposite. So me listening to one of Jacques' show, and at some point there were some parts that I really liked, and I was like, do you have the separated stem from this, you know? And he was like, yeah, because they were a little more recent. And so we started from that to do a new song. I started from some riff he recorded and played some new chords around it. And from there, we started switching project to each other.
I think it's the first
That's the live
Live version,
take.
yeah.
Yeah.
So basically nothing is happening. Just it's a 22-minute excerpt. Eight minutes. Minutes. 16 minutes. And it turned into this. How does the last one's called?
That guitar part was from another time from the same show, you know.
So I'm just gonna open the project. I wanted to show something.
I feel like the sound wasn't really transmitting right through the speakers. Like the quality, no, it was not really right.
He's doing
So
what,
it's
what we just
it's
say we didn't like to do.
Anyway, no, but it's the same point as earlier. You know, if we planned on showing that song before, we would probably have put some limiter or something on it. So
Yeah.
just to link with the previous.
I need to find the project of this one.
So it's all about like where you play it and to who when you choose what you can, how you're gonna export it.
I need to find the. If somebody wants to listen to one of these tracks, he can also prepare. Did somebody bring track of himself? Yeah. If somebody wants to show a track and we talk about it, you can. I mean, you want to do that? So for me to have time to all right. Take your time. Let's go for this.
Thank you.
So I wish we could talk about how do you make this sound, but you don't understand what I'm saying, so, and I don't understand what you're saying. So I just would like to know, if you can translate, how did she used to do this to produce the sounds? How did you, yeah?
Usé un Volca Beats.
What?
Volca Beats.
Ah, Volca Beats.
All right, all right.
Yeah,
Hardware.
With
Okay.
the FX SP Roland.
Le SP404.
FX.
Okay.
Okay,
I
okay.
think yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
Volca in the Roland
And
FX.
then you
Okay,
record
okay.
in what do you record?
With Cubase.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
Cubase. Okay, cool.
And
Just kidding. Okay, cool. So now I'm gonna use your song and I'm gonna destroy it even more than it already is. So I wanted to show you some device that people doesn't use so much. So there is the Ableton devices that everybody knows, like operator, analog, EQs, distortions, stuff like that, overdrive. And there is a few one that people don't use too much. And these are free actually. You know, now on the Ableton 10, you can. So I don't have internet now, but there is like available packs, and you can download it right from the app, which is cool. So I downloaded all these, and I wanted to show you some that are here. Irkamax. One that I really like is the Irkamax mover. So you can put it on every. If anybody has questions, feel free to ask. Yeah, this. So this is the mover. Maybe I can put it even bigger. You know that thing? Wow. Yeah. If you have a little screen, sometimes it's a good tip. So we're gonna go bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So as we just want to see one thing, which is this. I dropped the wrong one because it was. So the iMover is basically this thing, and you just have to drop a sample here. It's called drop your sound here. So I'm gonna drop your sound here, and after this, you can see the oscilloscope appearing here. So we don't see it so well, but anyway. So now there is this thing, this point. And it's a really funny way to create some basic sound that you will, like what I do sometimes is just I'm getting bored at my house and I'm just creating sample. I don't feel like doing a track. I don't have any idea of a track, and I'm just doing the process before the track. In the same approach that when I told you, just when you have a sound, just record it. It's the same thing. You just creating, just jamming on stuff without having in mind to do a track, you know. So I would take any sample and just put it in some devices. So the other day I found this one. It's really interesting. So every time I click on the point, it activates it. And so there is two lines. There is one horizontal one, one vertical one. So the horizontal one refers to the file position, the position in the file where it will read. So here would be the beginning of the file, and here would be the end of it. And then the vertical one would be the pitch. So for example, if I play this moment, let me put some more sound. Is this possible? Yeah. It refers to the pitch. So this is a comment on dit granulaire? Granular. It works like a granular synth with a pitch. It just repeats a little part of the sound. And then you discover new sounds in your sound. Yeah, and so what you can do is put it some here. Here you can see there is a random position, random pitch random. So this area that depends on this parameter here will make it makes an area where the point can move by itself. Like if you say something like this and this. How does it work again? There's a smooth. Ah yeah, I have to press play. So if I press play, the thing starts to move by itself. C'est le bordel. And depending on the sound you're going to put inside of it, so for example, if I put, you know, before that, in the masterclass, we listened to my song En la radio. If I put it, there is vocals into it. There is a lot of different stuff. And here is the smooth. So if I remove now, I'm going to remove the position random, smooth. Here's the smoothiness. If I click here and the smoothiness is up, the actual reading point will take time to meet the point you click on. I can recognize some part of the song. And there's also a cool thing if you, for example, if you like this moment, this particular moment, let's say we remove up. You like this particular moment. You can like lock the position, the vertical position. And now you have a new kind of synth. Because there is a chord inside of it. So if I remove the pitch smoothiness, there you go. We start to get some interesting sounds. And there is also a lock for the pitch lock. So I will stay on the same pitch, which can be interesting when you want to record something that will be used for a certain purpose. And in that case, what I use is what we call resampling. So it's something that appears here. So here there is my mover on the 8-track audio 8. Let me create another audio track on which I will just set the resampling mode. So here's the resampling mode. Let's put it in or auto and this. So what resampling mode does basically is just this track is receiving every sound that comes from the master, every sound that comes from your session. So it's just an easy way to resample whatever you want. If you have your full track up there with like 30 tracks here, you can just solo what you want to resample or solo both tracks that you want to resample, and you just press rec. So it starts to rec, nothing's happening here. And now if I start to have fun with all these. And then I have everything recorded like this. So I have this sample, now I can... Oh. And it's especially cool when you're tweaking some sound on device that makes a lot of randomness, because you know you will never have this sound again, you know. Sometimes you're just like doing some stuff that is so random, you're sure you never hear it again. So now you resample it up, and it can become the beginning of another track, or it can. What I do, for example, by myself, I have this folder bank of sounds in which I have per year some tweaks I made. This is the research. What is this sound? Yeah. This is example of sound I made with no purpose, just doing sound. This. Je peux pas me balader dedans. And with the mover, this one. I can't hear it. And we never know. Sometimes some snare can appear. Yeah, this is when I don't know, when I have fever, when I'm sick. I have some voices in my head. I was just trying to reproduce this effect, like people talking in my head. Have you ever felt this? I don't know. Oh, sorry. Another one that is cool is the Doppler effect. Toi, tu voulais en montrer un peut-être ou pas? So another one that I use, that I usually use on the packs is the Doppler effect. You might know about Doppler. The max Doppler is here. Yeah. So if I put the Doppler on what I just recorded here. I just made a loop of it. So it basically make like if the sound is in a car and the car is just passing by. It's like the pitch and the volume at the same time. And you can add some randomness. And it can be really dangerous. It's a dangerous device. Sometimes it's really... So it's just to show how you can, like, from some sound sometimes arrive on a totally different sound, which is cool because it makes me feel like even if at some point I'm looking for sound and I'm not finding nothing that makes me vibe, I know that any button at any moment can turn into something totally different, and that will make me vibe. So I never fall into some boredom, like, fuck, I don't find the right sound. I know at every moment it can turn into the right sound. So this is for the Doppler one. Which other one? Do you guys use Max for Live? Who use Max for Live? Okay. Max for Live. Yeah, okay. This Max for Live is really a good way to like push further some musical ideas, and this is really something I started to use like 1 year ago, and I can't use it on my live show, but now I use it all the time. That may be basic, but for example here we have the LFO. which is the LFO in the Max for Live stuff. It might be stupid, but this is game changing. If you're it's just a LFO set on nothing. You can just like map it on the, for example, the volume of this. So now the volume will just change, like referring to the rate and the depth of this. So you can see here the volume changing, and you can even hear it. So it's stupid, but for example, when you have when you want to add some randomness or some stuff moving, it's basically like automating an automation. Like for example, you have an hi-hat and a real drummer would playing always different, but like you're not a real drummer and it's a drum machine. So if you want to like always change the decay of a hi-hat, so you go tick, 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 always changing. You just put the LFO, not too big, not too fast, and everything. And on my sessions, I always have like 3 or 4 LFOs, just make everything always a bit moving all the time. That may be interesting. And there's another one that is free too. It's called the Shaper, and actually it just does the same thing, but you can. You can just realize your ID as you want. So you can do up. I put it on the volume like the LFO before. And you can do your own shape, like with a grid, if I want to make some little drawing.
If some of you saw this plugin called LFO Tools, this is a similar device.
So this is the sound of this shape. Okay, any question about that? Yeah, some device. We could show you plugins too. I don't know.
Maybe
If we
I
have
can.
time.
Last time, another stuff I'd like to do with maybe just one final stuff with just a basic, just live, no plugins involved, and a simpler for those who don't use Max for Live.
Yeah, man.
Where can I find all of this library with the plugin with the
On
effects?
ableton.com.
Yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
on the
Using Max for Live is just up to you because now it's free. If you have Ableton 9, you can use it. If you have Ableton 10, is even
more integrated, easier.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it's just like taking time to download the essential pack. This was all from the essential pack. Max for Live essential pack. It's the sound. Mais t'as déjà le sound. On a toujours eu 2 sounds. C'est toi qui t'es débranché. Oh, mic drop.
So I just wanted to show you some little techniques on the instrument track. So this is there are stuff that you can map to your how to explain what you guys know what the instrument RAD does, right? Okay, so what I just did is I used, can we see that? Can we actually see that somewhere? What I did is I used some sounds depending on the different keys, different recordings of flutes. Someone like doing like this in a flute, and you can see that the sound that is playing is slightly different on every time from this. Like you can hit better from there, for example, you know, l'octave plus marche pas. Vas-y.
I don't even know how to do that. You have multiple ones.
So you can have multiple samples on one key. It's a bit of a long process, but that's something you can do. And
How do you do this?
I'm not going to go into details, but if some of you go to the workshop, you will see it. And the name of this technique is round robin sample if you want to look it up. But what I wanted to show you is to just try to, you know, make the sound a bit weird. For example, there's these effects that I like. The grain, it's all about granular synthesis and granular processing as well. The granular delay, I think, is really good. So you will turn this sound that is actually a note into something that is more like an abstract, you know. And using a delay as well, you can. Where is it mapped? Vas-y. Okay, it's the feedback.
Somebody recognize this song?
And the last thing I wanted to show you is about.
I think you should show how you map your stuff on the.
It's a bit long, but I can show you
No,
at least where it is. You know.
No, I mean just mapping.
Sorry, yeah.
You know, mapping the.
So mapping is here.
You guys do, yeah.
You guys know about that, or? All right.
It's quite easy. Like, I don't know, a lot of people just start to use Ableton and then want to do a live performance, and taking that step is like a big psychological step. Like, but actually doing it like technically is really easy. Just gotta get a controller and then control stuff. And most of people does this now doing live shows. They just prepare like something vertical and then just trigger stuff, change some parameters, and sometimes record stuff on the go, like I do. And finally, it's just about having fun with the instruments, and just I think if you guys want to do a live performance, I would advise to start by just having fun and doing your own live performance at home, you know, because it's not funny to see a guy like in the studio on the stage. Like, that's why people don't do it. You will not arrive with a computer and start to produce a track in front of people. But I think live performance with Ableton and electronic music is fun if you see, maybe it's my opinion, but I think it's fun if you see a part of someone's process. So people can see how it's like when you're alone in your room vibing, and now you just succeed in vibing in front of people and share your vibe with people. And this is the most important aspect. And I think there is a lot of people today that are doing their thing, and then they don't want to do DJ set, they want to do live set, but they don't want to take so many risks, and they want it to sound like in their studio release. So finally, it doesn't make so many sense. They just press on, like, we're on the verse, then we are on the bridge, and then we are on the chorus, and then there is reverb, and then I press pause, and then everybody's like, woo, and then I press play again, and everybody's like, bam. And so this is, I think for my opinion, it doesn't make sense. And I imagine maybe I'm wrong, but maybe in a few years, when it's gonna be like more and more people get interested in what is this, what is a live set, and at some point people will start to see that, to understand what artists does on stage, and it will make some artists do more. I think, because sometimes it's really doing. It's like, I don't know how to say that in English, but it's like bullshit live set. It's just like, I put my name on the, like, I'm famous. You just pay me for having my name on your sur ton affiche, comment dire, in your party, and then people show up. So we are fine for the business part, the business aspect. Everybody bought a ticket. If the show is good or the show is not good, who cares? The room is full, and so you just press play, and then people are like, oh, he did a live set. Actually, we're in a weird situation by this time about what a live set is, what a DJ set is, what people knows about that, and I would rather consider a live set when I see someone's vibing in a zone. Like, what I would advise to do is just building a zone, like as big as you can, like a zone in which you're comfortable to vibe, so you can make some accident in front of people, and then some people might feel what just happening in front of their eyes and in their ears. This is my vision of what's interesting, but maybe it's not everybody's vision.
I like when there are some strong visual cues personally, and when there is video involved, and maybe when the artist will control video and music at the same time, which is very rare. One last thing I'd like to say about what you said is that I think people are starting to get more like the electronic side of music, like in their mind. Like, the problem we had before is when you go to a concert and you see a guitarist, you might not understand the notes he plays, you might not know what he is doing, but you know that he's playing the guitar and you know what he does. And for a long time, when someone will be on stage with a synthesizer, for example, and doing some weird sounds, it was not really in the mentality of the people, I think. Like, what is he exactly doing, this guy with the electronics? And now I feel, and especially with the modular synthesis, for example, all the synthesizers with a lot of wires. Now I feel like it's completely accepted that there is this guy on stage with who does like, we don't know what he does, but now it's okay, So that's my opinion about it. And the second stuff, the little stuff I wanted to say, if some of you are interested in creating your own plugins in Max, or at least modifying some stuff, going deeper into this. About the mapping is super simple. It's exactly the same as Ableton. There is just one little button. You click and you will select. It's out there, So don't feel scared or anything. It's like any other programming stuff. You just download stuff for other people. You look how they are done and you modify them.
I would like to know who there wants to, have the wish or the idea, the dream, or to live from the music, make the music your job. Yeah? Is somebody already is already the case? No? Like, make the music your job. Okay, cool. Okay. Which is something I really wanted to do since I'm really young. I wanted to do a rock star, and that's why I learned guitar. And I think like doing doing music for yourself and then deciding that it's gonna be your job is two different things. And I think it's from my experience, the fact that I needed money and I needed to live from music, and that I couldn't imagine myself doing something else than music really helped me to finish my stuff and to arrive at to reach that point I was talking about, when you can, like, even if you don't do the final mix of your track, you're just able to do something that somebody can imagine how it's going to sound like. And I think it's really important, and I think for me now, the challenge, now I'm okay. I've been touring a lot. I have, like, I have when I play, people are coming to see me, at least in France, and that's, I'm really blessed for that. And now my new challenge is to find to create by myself the context in which I need to do stuff, because before that I was just, I needed money, and I was like, okay, I won't go to McDonald's, and I was playing guitar. It was really awkward. I was just the guitar player in some Parisian bad club, and I was earning like 50 euros per night just playing solos on top of the DJ, which, if today I see a guy doing that, I would be, oh fuck, why do you do this? uh, and but I was this guy, and so I did a lot of, I don't know, concerts. Some like plans I could accept because I really needed money, and at some point I was just like, okay, I should release my EP. I should try and I think that I don't know. I know that, like, talking about money and talking about business in music is something that could be really glissant. Comment dire?
Sleepy.
Yes, yeah.
Uncomfortable. I guess, right?
Uncomfortable, but for my experience, like, taking the music and accepting that music had to be part of my life. So, like, I needed to eat, I need to wash myself, I need to pay a bill and everything. That really connects, it really makes sense, and that finally pushed me to go further and further and further. So this is something, maybe it's a tactical in my head. I'm like, I accept this, and I root it in my head, say, okay, this is something good for me. I need to go further and further, and I prefer to have it like this, like a good motivator, rather than having it like a pressure or like something else in my head, like I need to have a job and then I need to do my music on the side. And I wanted to mix this all together, and I think it's I think it's something I wanted to talk about, because it really, you feel it when you're like, okay, now I really need to finish my songs. I really need to. And when you're at a meeting or appointment with a label or with any manager agency, and then they see a guy who really needs it to get done, then they are like, okay, this guy is gonna do it without us, so we should work with this guy. Otherwise, he's gonna do it with something else, with someone else. And this is a feeling that's really important, because I know, like, a lot of guy coming now. I have my own label, so I know, like, guy arriving with demos saying, "Are you interested? Maybe we could do something together." And, like, man, it doesn't. I don't know. There's no word. There's no sentence I can really answer to that. But it doesn't work like this. It's just, are you gonna do it for real, for sure? And then we're gonna work together. I don't want. I think professional in the music is like everywhere in every discipline in the world. People don't want to work, I don't want to work, you don't want to work, you just want to chill, just want to have fun and be. So if you arrive like you are gonna represent a work in more for people, they will be, fuck this guy, we're gonna have to care about his artwork, we're gonna care about this clip, and we are not sure that he's gonna make money, we're not sure his music is gonna work. So you arrive with problems, and if you arrive with a solution like, hey, I already have the artwork, I have ID for a clip, I have a friend that does videos, he wants to do his first video, so he's okay to do it for free. I know this guy that has a bar, I can do my first concert, and you arrive with everything that's gonna make it happen. And so it's gonna be way easier to find people who's gonna work with you just because they won't need to work, you know. And it's the same for journalists, you know. Journalists, like everybody, doesn't want to work. If you arrive and say, "Hey, I have this EP and I have this text," and the guy, you know, the journalist will see the picture. There's a cool picture, and they will see like there's a cool text. You just have to copy, paste, put the picture, and then there's an article. Just change a few words, and it's easy, you know. It's easy for the journalist, and then you have your article. Everybody's happy, you know. And I don't understand that a lot of people arriving just with the music saying, do you want to do an article? The guy is like, yeah, but I don't, I'd rather like do something else or do an article on somebody else that have everything already done, you know. So there's a lot of things that we had to do to reach that point when when people just want to work with you because it's going to be easy, you know. It makes everything easy. And I think there's a difference between, that's what I said, between just making good music and trying to live with this music. And music is just a little aspect of having a career in music. And actually, if the music is good and if you like the music, it's better. But it's not even so important in this. For some other people who are working in the manager side of things, the most important thing will be: are you when you have an appointment? Do you show up at the right time? Do you smile? Are you able to do an interview saying relevant things? Do you have an history? Do you have something to say in your lyrics? Do you have friends? You know, do you have like people around you who's gonna help you to do stuff, or am I gonna find everything? You know, and these stuff are the most important things for managers, for labels, and the music. If the music is good, yeah, but you know, everybody does good music. You know, there's no, I don't know. It depends. You know, music depends. Some people will hate it. Some people will like it. It depends, but. Do you smile? Are you here when you have an appointment? It doesn't depend, you know. So these stuff are the really important stuff. And I know a lot of people who wants to make music their job, and they're like, I don't know what's bad with my songs. And I'm like, yeah, but man, you're smoking spliff all day long. You never finish your stuff. These little stuff are the important stuff. And once I understood this, I was like, okay, so I will need to work on this other stuff. And I think that the fact that I needed to have this done and I needed to make money and be in the real world with this and just have this situation that I have now, the fact that I need this, it makes me have all this reflection and trying to find like what's wrong with me. Why am I not headlining this festival? What have I done wrong? You know, that's what I wanted to say about this.
I think that's really good advice. And one thing I wanted to focus, because you talked a lot about like what it takes to be one single person in charge of his own like music business, whatever you call it. But at some point, what is going to be really important for you is you're going to have to find your peers, you know, your people, your crew. And I think this is true for both of us. Now we live in Paris, when you live in in Morocco. But
moved to Morocco.
You spent like your career blew up in Paris, kind of, while you were there. So that's where the things are happening, and we know that. But we both moved there with some friend of ours, with our crews, with our labels, kind of, you know, that were coming outside of Paris. And it's really important, I think, to find a balance between what drives you personally to make music and what you want to say to the people and your personal message, you know. And so between that and like who you're gonna do it with, like your close friends, your collaborators, musical, for example, but also just, you know, the people you feel comfortable with working. And That's something that's gonna come naturally because it's a human experience, and that's something you're gonna feel. But that's a question you're gonna have to ask yourself. Me, I was kind of a loner when I was younger, and I spent a lot of time in my room. But either through the internet or through the video games I played with other people, I still had some people who I could rely on to when there was something happening with the music. They will be around me, and I think it's really important to not to depend on them, because you cannot do that. You cannot depend on the people because they will start controlling your artistic direction. But you have to know that there's some people, when you press play, they will understand what you do, and they will have the same vision as you do, because most of the time the music you're gonna do, it's either like because you agree on musical things you see around you, or you disagree and you wanna have a new proposition, for example. And about like how can my sound be unique, but it's not about I want to be different. It's a reaction towards the things you experience as a human and the things you listen to as a musician. So I think the people you're gonna find during your musical process, are gonna be related to these two things.
Yeah, totally. And I would add that I had to, at some point when I really was deciding that I wanted to do this of my life, it's true that I had to like not remove but separate from friends that were just pushing me down, pulling me down. Yeah, I should do a track about that. God pulling me down, and but so yeah, that was true, and that was marijuana related, but that was true. I just needed to focus, and everybody that were putting me doubt on me, like like little doubt. Your track is good, but then I was like, okay, yeah, but I don't give a shit. I'm just like, there's no but now. Now it's the time I need to, to have no doubt about it. Otherwise, it will break the process of just like go for it, And so this is something that I really, it's actually the same thing inside of myself. I'm fighting against myself, not to have doubt and to remove everything or to add in my tracks and in my life stuff that makes me doubt about it. And so yeah, this was a really important thing, and it's maybe the hardest thing when it's related to people, and people you like, people you spend a lot of time with. Sometimes it's a musical band. I had a band. I had to, or like somebody you worked with for a long time, and then at some point you realize that this guy is not gonna do it, and if I stay with this guy, then I'm not gonna do it, and so bye, man. And everybody has his own way, So this is a really hard part of doing music a job. And this other thing I wanted to talk about is there is an illusion that people with internet, I think people think that if the music is good, then it's gonna be on the internet and people will like it, and then people is gonna share it, and this is not true. This might be true, and even if it's true, even if it were true, for some cases, it doesn't make a strong root of your career. Like if you do like a hit on the internet, on SoundCloud or whatever, and then there is like millions of views, and you will have like advertising for I don't know what, but if the process wasn't organic, then it's not strong. It would just last, So some people just want to reach like having the maximum of views on their track, but this is not the important thing. The most important thing for me is like when you do your first concert in a bar of your city, will there be your 10 friends? This is more important than having like million views, because these 10 best friends that you have here, they will be here, and they will just like, yeah, man, they will be in the vibe, they will spread the vibe, and the guys arriving in the bar like randomly will say, oh, who's this guy playing? And then there will be 50 people dancing, you know, and then the next time there will be those 50 friends of friends and everything, and this will make some root, because you will spread good memories in the mind of people, and your music will be representing these cool memories that we had together, and it's growing like in an exponential way. For me, this is the most important thing, yeah, because there is your circle of friends, and these, I don't know, 10, maybe 5, maybe 20, depending on people, best friend that you have, they are the most important people. You have to make sure that they understand, they know that you want to make it, you want your music to be a job. If you are clear with your intention, then these people that are your friends will want to help you. They will have your music because you will send it on their email, and when they will see any professional guy or manager, they will say, hey, I have a friend that's doing this. All that happens to me was going through this channel. The first step, you know, for me is make your best friends be your soldier, you know, like in this quest. This is
Your warriors.
yeah, your warriors, because they will want to help you. And be clear, like if you want to do music, if your ambition is to be like headlining big festivals, or I don't know, just live out of with your music, be clear, like say it, talk about it, assume it, so people will know, you know. Because sometimes I receive, for example, emails of guys sending me a song, and I realize like months later that the guy had a certain idea, but he didn't dare to say it. And if you don't even like decide it inside of yourself and talk about it, it will never happen. That's for sure. And so yeah, this may be an obvious advice, but it's a good one, I think.
Another thing is that everyone is gonna have an opinion on your music, you know. So all your friends are gonna have an opinion. Your team, a manager, whatever it is, no matter who it is gonna have an opinion. The journalists, the websites are gonna have an opinion, you know. So there's a certain process where you have to learn how to digest the opinion from the people, and who to trust and who to listen when, I would say, you know. And at some point you can get lost with like everyone saying what it feels like. And for example, there are some friends, some childhood friends, I really love them, but we don't even talk about music when we see each other, you know, because they listen to their stuff, I listen to my stuff, and I know the worlds don't collide. For example, so I did my solo career, but I was also in a band as a keyboardist that had a little success in France, like Région, etc. And my little sister came to me and she was, finally I can listen to your music. Before I couldn't, like the techno boom boom. You know, now I can relate to that. So that's also connecting to different people on a different level, you know. So in the end, like, know who to trust and when. Like it's not depending on the sound you make. Maybe you're not gonna want to do all the same sound all the time, and it's gonna also be influenced by the different people you want to connect with.
Yeah, and this question of doing different sounds is a really also hard question, because I think that most people like they listen to an album or an EP, and then they arrive to the concert and they want to listen to the track they listened to before, and this is totally normal and it's okay. And this was hard for me because I cannot play my tracks as it's improvised and there is so many precise sounds. I just arrive and keep on improvising, saying not I'm gonna play. For me, I'm doing the same thing, but for people it's not the same thing because it's just another song, you know. So I was at the beginning it was hard to tell to my booker, okay man, I'm not gonna play what you call a single, I'm just gonna vibe for 2 hours and people are gonna like it. So if I was listening to my booker and to my manager, I would have done just a normal live show. And now that I've done this, people ask for my live show, and this is even like more interesting than me playing the memory of what people already know. And but I arrive at some point now that I've been touring 3 years, just improvising and vibing. Actually, I was proud of just I won't play the single, I don't give a shit. And now I just want to be able to to use this setup and play something that people already know, because I just understand the feeling of you've been, for example, I release something on the summer, people will spend the whole summer listening to this with their friends and everything, and then they see, he's coming to my city, I will invite the same friends, we spend the summer listening to this, and you arrive at the show and the guy doesn't play it, you're like, fuck, it's not, I couldn't take the the little video I wanted to take, and I don't judge this behavior, and so now I want to go there. And there is this other thing, that is that I have a lot of music that I like to do, and I can do techno, I can sing, I can, and this, it's really hard to combine everything. I spend a lot of time to find my own sound, and now I try to comment on dit décliner, to decline, no, pas décliner. I try to make different version of the same sound.
Transpose, genre.
Yeah, to transpose, and I am lucky because I found this object concept that makes a link between any genres that I can make. So I would just like use objects doing some reggae, and they will see, it's Jack's reggae. If I use object to make some ambient, it's Jack's ambient, and there will always be this crispy, bad sound of the mic. And so this is my way, but there is plenty ways. The example of Daft Punk, they always like make sure that on every track there will be a typical Daft Punk sound. They did an whole album with the beer, beer, beer. So now when you use this little pedal that does this sound, everybody's like, hey, you're doing some Daft Punk. And so I think that at some point it can be useful to stick with some jingle sound that you have, that you like, and that will make everybody arrive at the concert. It's him. I remember. I feel it really like a fragrance, like
A signature sound, I guess.
yeah, signature sound. And this is some really important thing, because the signature sound will allow you to make whatever you want, making people believe that you're doing the same thing, which is false, because you're traveling through genres and you're just. But if there is this signature sound, then the main stream people will just feel like you're doing what you always do.
If people start to copy you, it's a good sign. That means you have a style, And so
Not too early.
but not too early, because otherwise you get ripped off, right? So you're gonna have a vision, like you had your vision of what you wanted, and it's important. I'm gonna finish on that for the feedbacks. Make sure when you get some feedback from your friends, from the people, that they are feeding your vision of music and sharing the same vision, and not, expressing their vision of music that might be different from yours. Like basically music is just this big thing, and everyone is trying to push it towards a direction.
Yeah, and I liked it when the last workshop you were saying, do your music once it will be done, even if for you it's a whole thing, like you've done, that is entire. It will be part of a bigger thing, Your music will be in a playlist, will be in an album, will be in a party, in a DJ set. It will be in an afternoon somewhere in someone's living room, and mind in which context you want your track to be listened. Because music is, if if you decide to do music for people, and it's like you decide to offer them a moment, you know. And even if the moment you spent in your studio was really cool, and you had some different versions of this sound that you're making, this tune that you're making, at the end, I think the version that you're gonna release will be a gift for people, because otherwise, there's no point about releasing it. You know, if you release it, it's a pain to release a disc. You know, you have to. It's a work. It's like you have to find the right distributor. And if you do all this, it's just to give it to people. You know, so I think the version and the feedbacks that most of people will give you will be a projection of the context they're gonna listen into, you know. So, for example, a part of your family will say, "Yeah, but this one, the kick is too loud," because he plans to listen to it in this afternoon, working, or I don't know. And somebody else will say, "Yeah, but the kick stuff is having. This is too crispy. This is too," because he plans to listen to it to play it in a club. So, if you are having different feedbacks of these people trying to make you do something for different contexts, then you will just do like a blurry patchwork that nobody can listen in any context. So I would advise just choose a context. Even you can do different versions if you want. That's why people sometimes do like ambient version of a song or remove every beat. But I would just advise choose a context for one song and then do another song. You know, just go on and don't like spend like 6 months trying to make this song go at the same time for this, at the same time for this. And just choose and then do another song and just, you know, go on. And another thing about this is like if you do some music that is made for clubs and if you do some music that is made for afternoons, I would say maybe different moments of the day, you know, afternoons and nights.
The context always.
Yeah. And
very important.
Make sure that people will understand the intention, you know, because, for example, for me, when I listen to somebody's track, I will never judge it without comparing to the intention that the people, you know, for example, I don't know, an ambient track is a really bad club track, you know, and a club track is a really bad ambient track. It's just because you have to compare with the intention. So make sure that people understand your intention. And the way to do this would be to play with the codes, play with the, you know, for example, every techno vinyl stuff would be some a certain kind of titles, certain kind of visuals, certain kind. And if you do some clubby tracks, it can be useful to make your own versions of this code so people understand, okay, we're talking about some, you know, just follow it your way, just bend it your way. My example is that I'm always arriving and speaking and showing myself with a guitar, and so people don't really, in the techno world, people don't really consider me, take me seriously, because they are like, yeah, this guy is kind of a joke, you know. But at some point when you just close your eyes and listen to my sound, there is sound that could be in a club context. So, you know, accept that people are sometimes focusing on the visual, on the titles, on your vibe more than on the music. And instead of blaming this and say, yeah, people are like this, people are that, just accept it and play with it, and just like make sure that your purpose is, you're going to reach your purpose, you know, that way. Yeah.
All right.
I think we
So yeah, there was a lot of like talking, and I hope you got inspired by all that, and you could find some stuff you liked. We did a lot of like stuff about.
maybe a final question.
That's what I'm gonna say. We're gonna play the final song, but before, like, does anyone have a final question maybe before we close it up?
Aha.
Question appearing.
So he's wondering what types of difficulties you guys have when you start playing live.
Where was that again?
What type of difficulties you found when you started playing live?
Fear.
Should I talk about this one first? I'm working on my live process right now, so that's where precisely where I'm at. And I think the hardest thing is having too many choice. You can do this, you can do that. You have all the gears, you know. Like, what are you gonna do? There's so many things, and the important thing is very early to, even if it's the wrong one, it's gonna evolve. And like you changed a lot your setup, you know, over the course of your career. So just decide on a setup and go for it. I think choosing your setup and choosing your tools before you know, crafting your tools, like the preset you like, the stuff. Like, make sure when you start playing with your live, that's gonna be fast, you know, the same way I explained earlier, like straight from your brain to the computer. You have to be able to reach that point when you do a live show, I think. And so you're gonna spend some time on just working on your setup, on finding the right tools, finding the right preset, whatever, the right you know, gear, the one you like, the visual stuff, your style. But when you're gonna start creating or adapting some previous work, it's gonna go fast, you know.
Yeah, my main difficulty for my life is to arrive on stage with no idea of what people think of what they're gonna see. And because I'm projecting, I'm like, people are, I think everybody does that, it's normal, are projecting something. They have seen me on the video, they have read something about me. So they imagine something before, and then they're gonna compare my performance to what they imagined, which is normal. And I am imagining what they imagine of me. And this can make some really stupid feedback of me trying to do something because I'm wrong about what I imagined they imagined. So I'm trying to do something they didn't even expect. And so there is, like, you know, we don't, you know, this situation, it could be the worst for me, and I'm trying to go on stage with no illusion, and just trying to be myself, and, you know, try to accept, because it depends also on the hour where you play, the party where you play, which artists were before. And I know a lot of artists don't really consider this, and I'm really I admire people that just arrive on stage and they just, like, forget what happened before, forget what will happen after, and just do their own thing. And this is maybe the hardest thing to do. As I'm improvising, this is an immediacy question for me on stage, but it's the same if you prepare before. You're gonna imagine. And I think that sometimes in your process of preparing your live show, or even in the process of just producing a studio track, you could have some what we call calls. Like, you were about to do something, and then by mistake or there is some idea that arrives. It's a call that leads you to another direction. And if you are too much in the mind and too much thinking about what you wanted to do, related to what people want you to do, and everything, you're too much into a process, like a mental process, then you can miss the calls. And you can miss some calls, but don't miss too many calls, because these calls will lead you to some new stuff. So I think to abandon myself is really difficult and important.
Okay.
Yeah? Mike?
First of all, thank you so much to you both. And I wanted to say that the first time that I listened to your music, because it's like an amazing coincidence what is happening right now. I'm a student, architecture student, so I
Yeah.
spend a lot of time listening to music for work and out of the work also. And I remember really good the day that I find your video in that white room and you start to
Yeah, yeah.
play your stuff and
La vidéo. Phono shows.
yeah, and I didn't do the judgment by your image, you know. I just see that you have a making a noise with a pencil and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
literally blow my mind.
Cool.
So thank you so much to you, like.
Thank you. It's cool. Thank you.
And
As you can see, it changed a lot now. It's not the same, and I don't have the bike anymore.
but, and the question, Afro, you say that you have a vision of like how to play the music like in a club or a festival. So you don't like the traditional way the boom 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 boom. So at sometimes do you like take the decision to didn't assist to some festival or some
Attends,
kind of party?
what? Attends, t'as compris toi? I didn't understand the whole part of your sentence. What was the last sentence? Sorry.
if 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 there was some moments that you say I will not go to that party because it's like
Yeah.
a typical
Yeah.
tukun tukun thing.
Yeah. Dum dum dum. I understand this one. Yeah. So the relationship with normal structure, musical structure, is hard because it's always about what's cultural and what's natural, and I deeply believe that there is nature behind this, and there is for example, the form of a tree. As you're an architect, you can know like a house has to be,
The structure.
yeah, there's a structure. If you remove that wall, then everybody's gonna fall and people are gonna die. It's gonna be fun, So, so I think in music, it's the same way, kind of. Like there is stuff that is not, I think, is not relevant to revolutionize. Revolution is right? Like you can make a musical revolution by changing a lot of stuff, by adding your own. But I think now, maybe I will change my mind in a few years, I don't know, that there is energy management inside of a song that is natural to the human body, and that suits to human well. And I think this obvious way of just building up like something that rises, and then goes down, and then it rises again, and these things are for me more like a relationship, like comment on dit it's like a ratio. It's not like, I don't know how to express myself in English on this, but yeah, it's like something that you can, in every genre, in every musical genre, you can like see that there is this intro, and then there is this bridge going up, and then there is this chorus kind of, and even in a techno track there is always like something that going up, and then there's a new part, and then something, and I don't feel like changing this,
And even if it's not inside of a track, that's gonna be the job of the DJ, to like there's gonna be one track with one mood, and then with the next track he's gonna build himself the architecture of the set. It's just the length are different.
It's like when you study the pitch of of a talk, which I did. It's like or the pitch of a movie, every Hollywood movies. When you study this, it's really interesting to study this. It's always like some situation, and then there is a problem, and then we need to find this guy is the only one that can, solve the problem. But this guy doesn't want to do it, and finally the problems arrive in his own personal life. So he wants to solve the problem, so we hire this guy, and then there is, things happening that going worse and worse and worse, and at the end there is this this solution appearing from nowhere, and then we are in the better situation than before. And these are the equivalent of the structure of a house in a movie. And actually, it's the same thing for somebody talking to an audience, and I think it's the same thing for a track.
And you can play around them, you can cheat, in a clever way with them, but you have to be aware that they are here and like see from other people like how they work,
For me, it's just the equivalent also of wearing pants, or wearing clothes and saying hello, It's just stuff you don't want to change. Otherwise, you will just like be on the side of the party, kind of. But I think that when I am alone, in my room, I can be naked and I say hello to nobody. I can just be myself, and I can make music that is totally not following these rules, and I do. And but when I go out of my room, then I put my clothes, I say hello, and I present my tracks that are following the right move, Yes. I think we are done. Yeah, we are 1 hour late. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
So you're gonna do a little final track.
A little final track. So we are talking about collaborating with other people. In this one, you will hear a lot of different instruments and a lot of different collaborators. And I'm just gonna playing. And
actually we've been working on an album together, and this is supposed to be the intro, but we don't know. Maybe it's gonna change again.
Suspense.
Yeah, we're in the same question. And it's an interesting song because it really mixes everything we talked about before.
You already know that. Yes, you already know that. You already know that. You guys already know that, know that, know that. That it depends on the love that flows out. With no doubt. You guys already know that. You've already been to these places. You've already seen all these faces. You already went through these crises. Try to gather these pieces. C'est comme une l'impression de déjà vu. C'est je ne sais quoi que j'ai déjà connu. Je le savais mais je t'ai rien dit, j'avoue. Tu n'as pas le choix d'être bienvenu.
Okay, cool. Thank you for coming to our masterclass and see you next time.